Hello, and welcome to Rocket Fuel, the daily update of everything that's happening in the Rocket Pool and the Ethereum ecosystems. My name is Wack. Today is Friday the 13th of September, and we've got a whole lot of really cool stuff to cover. So we're going to be covering news about RPIP 62 sentiment poll on the forum, information about the hotfix. We're going to be talking on the Ethereum side about Pectra and what might be changing for that. We're also going to be talking about Vitalik, some of the things he's been saying on Twitter, zkSync news, cbBTC news this time, and a whole lot more as well. So stay tuned and we'll get that all covered.
10, 9, ignition sequence start, 6.
Okay, so we're going to start the episode with a whole lot of Rocket Pool news, and this news is going to start with RPIP 62, which of course is ETH only validators, but also setting rewards so people under 10% collateral with RPL will start getting rewards again. So the Halululo a few days ago posted the sentiment poll in the research thread and trying to get feedback for that, and that was all fine. So that has now made its way to the forum, and here we have the thread. So let me go through it. It says, with discussion of the cliff seeming to subside and above 70 responses on the poll after 8 days, I feel comfortable moving on to a sentiment poll. As usual, this would lead to a snapshot in 14 days if there's promising community sentiment. That's the standard formula that it follows for Rocket Pool governance. Halulo then goes on to say, while the current poll shows preference towards removing the cliff, the gap is not wide enough to remove any doubt as to which variant would win an actual snapshot vote. Therefore, a full vote of the RPIP will use ranked choice voting with options for variant A with a cliff and variant B without a cliff, alongside the standard option to vote against the proposal as a whole. The RPIP is close to its final form now, with no expected changes other than potential clarifications, other minor corrections. Since the creation of this discussion thread last week, there have been 3 additions. One is the exclusion of 16 ETH mini pools from bonus commission to further incentivize bond reductions. They don't want people at 16 ETH basically to get those if they really want to promote 8 ETH validators instead of 16 ETH validators because they're so much more efficient. After that, there's specification of the snapshot vote format, which is described above, which is ranked choice. And then on top of that, you'll have instructions to update the RPIP after the vote to reflect the chosen variant. And if we have a look at the vote, so far there have been 33 votes. And of those, 61% of people say that the proposal is great, we should go to a vote. And 39% of people saying that this proposal is good enough and we should go to a vote. And 0 people have said they oppose it moving to a vote, and 0 people have said they're undecided, and 0 people have said they're undecided the other way. So it looks like this will be going to vote in 2 weeks. Sadly, in these kind of situations, I feel really bad that the Rocket Pool governance system is as slow as it is. Like, it's not slow, we like to do things methodically, but it was quite clear to everyone to see that, people wanted this to move forward. I think waiting 7 or 8 days before the sentiment poll came through is fine, because there was some good discussion that took place on the forum, outside of Discord, especially, some of the things that Ramana brought up about Rocket Land and other things as well. But what I wish would happen was if there was, a threshold of people wanting to go to the polls, there should be a way to fast track it. For example, if 30 people respond and we have 95%, positive response of moving it to a vote, then it should, happen within 4 days or a week. Some threshold at which quorum is reached pretty much. It might be worth editing the RPIPs, the voting RPIPs, to tweak that a little bit, because I think it just slows things down so much. And I think another thing could be as well is the actual snapshot votes could potentially be truncated a little bit too. Instead of running for 2 weeks, there could be situations in which they run for 1 week, and those would be situations where there's a quorum has been reached significantly, maybe 150% quorum, for example, and sentiment is more than 50 percentage points in favor of one. So it'd be 75-25 or even 90-10, just to set that threshold even higher. It might be worth then ending the vote after 1 week instead of running for 2 weeks. But those might be things worth discussing in the governance. But yeah, this is going to vote, almost definitely going to vote in the next 2 weeks. and then it's a matter of having the community vote on it, which will take 2 weeks, and making sure that everything on the back end is fixed, which is going to happen through the hotfix that the team are going to have audited. So we actually have news about the hotfix. So this came in overnight. And Langus says this is the official discussion for RPIP 63 Houston hotfix. This is the changes described in this RPIP are about to enter audits. We acknowledge that this is not the preferred flow of creating RPIP ahead of the work. In part, this is because the initial scope of the hotfix was purely a bug fix territory, and it grew to include items that merited PDAO vote. So the key required bug fixes are fixing legacy mini pool finalization, on-chain voting, prevent abuse of protocols to exit RPL stake, on-chain voting, prevent attacks that allow proposer bond to be stolen, and reduce the guardrail on on-chain voting quorum. Exact number is up for discussion. And then there's things that were not bug fixes that are going to be that kind of found their way into the hotfix, and these allow the minimum per mini pool RPL stake to 0 without causing reverts elsewhere. While this is a bug fix, it's only needed to enable something similar to RPIP 62. And then there's use ETH as script penalty instead of RPL, and this is primarily needed to enable something like RPIP 62. So it looks like we'll have the same situation here, where after a few days there'll be a sentiment poll. Almost everyone will vote in favor yes of this, of course they will, and then the whole process just takes that time. And I think these are the kind of situations where we could probably shave off 2 weeks from governance. 1 week in the snapshot sentiment poll phase, and another week in the snapshot phase. But that is something that I really do want to bring up with governance. So that will, I think, be interesting. But yeah, it's really cool developments. Okay, next we have news. That's the first time sharing this news because the GMC has decided to start making this public. But for a few months now, the GMC has been having bi-weekly meetings with the Rocket Pool team. It's most often Langus and Grant who join these meetings, but sometimes it's Mav also. We just talk about things that are pertinent to the GMC, things that are pertinent to the team that the GMC can actually help with. And this week we actually had some really good discussion. So there was talk about the merchandising store and whether we can use the Rocket Pool logo and Rocket Pool name in merchandise that's created by the community. And this should be settled in 4 to 5 weeks' time. And Grant should have an official date at which point this can go ahead in about a week. So we might have like a month countdown for the Rocket Pool merchandise store run by the community and paid for by the GMC in part, or totally, I think. But licensing the team's logo and name, which would be really, really cool. On top of that, we have around 16 applications. So we got some team feedback on applications from people like Blockworks, Cifrin, and also Alpha Growth. And after that, then there was this idea that I mentioned and kind of brought up a few times yesterday. It was also brought up in the GMC Town Hall, which I'm going to talk about next, actually. But this is something we're calling Operation rETH, and this is a way to okay. So the idea behind Operation rETH is that very, very soon we are going to have NodeSet launching, and their aim is to empty the deposit pool. We're going to have ETH-only validators coming online, which hopefully should add a nice, new node operator, a new validator pressure on the protocol, which means, the deposit pool is likely to become more empty. And then, in a matter of months from now, 6 to 9 months potentially, we have Saturn 1, which will make Rocket Pool even more effective than it is right now. Like, going from 8 ETH validators to 4 ETH validators will give us like 3 times more scope for our ETH minting than we have right now. So what does that mean? That means very soon, or maybe in 6 months' time, we're going to be in a position where we're going to drastically incentivize or promote the minting of our ETH as opposed to the promotion of needing new node operators, which is what the status has been, for the last year pretty much. So here, Schifrin wrote, the DAO's focus should shift towards our ETH demand strategy. A new channel in the GMC Discord is available for gathering ideas, and the team may run another incubator program. So this is another idea that I had, was that we could potentially start an incubator program where we, crowdsource ideas for minting our ETH from the community, and that could then be put together and put into a cohesive strategy, just like we did with, the Saturn tokenomics changes. And I think that would be something that's really awesome. And then here it says the Rocket Pool team is encouraged to share contacts and ideas that might fit the initiative. Lang has mentioned that Grant has a list of potential stakers awaiting capacity removal. Companies like Ledger, MetaMask, and others have shown interest in the referral program. Lido's program that had a Ledger referral program that was actually rolled back, and that might be because of gaming risks, but also because they got their initial boost that they needed, and they didn't really need much more after that. And then there's the hotfix situation as well. So here there's a little bit more information from what Angus said on the forum. It says the Sigma Prime audit, the hotfix will happen next week. The aim is to have it all implemented by the end of October, ahead of DevCon mid-November, and Saturn progress is positive, with work continuing on Megapool code and the deposit mechanism. So this idea of having everything ready by the end of October, that includes the audit, any feedback from the audit, any potential changes that might need to happen from the audit, but also testing and deployment of the smart contract changes. And then at that same time, I think we'll be in a position where we could potentially have ETH-only validators going live as well. So that time frame of the end of October, beginning of November, I think the team really want to have it all done before they leave for Thailand and go to DevCon. So that's pretty awesome. And then the GMC call that happened yesterday as well. We have the biggest month of payments ever for the GMC in its history, of 63 payments going out, and the GMC will be working on that today to process all those payments, and they'll probably be going out at some point today or tomorrow. And then there's the GMC grant applications. So there were some big applications, and people from Cifrin and Alpha Growth answered some questions in the community town hall, the GMC town hall, which was really nice. And Cifrin presented an overview of the company, highlighted their marketing strategies and target audience. Alpha Growth provided insights into extensive experience in facilitating business development within the crypto industry. And then there was a lot of discussion about Rocket Lend, about the GMC, whether Ramana should expedite the completion of Rocket Lend to hit the market before Saturn, or basically as soon as possible, or wait till Saturn, or just call it quits, basically, the three options that Ramana talked about in the forum this week. And it says, while there was a trend towards prioritizing its completion, substantial work remains before it can be sent to audit, and no definitive decision was reached. And with rETH demand, this was the GMC needed to develop a comprehensive plan to boost rETH demand in anticipation of the removal of node operator ETH constraints, and a public thread will be initiated to gather and discuss ideas. So that was a nice little update from the GMC, from its town hall, and from its meeting with the team. And there's some good information there, so definitely check that out if you're interested, and ask questions if you want about that stuff. Okay, we got an update from NodeSet today as well, and this was actually quite a lot of information that NodeSet shared out, and this was part of its Constellation community call that they teased earlier in the week. So this was today on Friday at noon Eastern time, and Nemo here was kind enough to provide notes on what was covered in the call. So I listened to the call, and in the call they talked about why they are going with Gravita instead of doing everything in the house. That was because of DeFi issues and jurisdiction issues and political issues, regulation issues. After that, they said that the testnet for Constellation is imminent, with a 60% chance of it being next week and a 90% chance of it being the week after. And one of the things that specific target dates can be counterproductive, but it's better to be ready to then get those expectations going, basically. And sometimes things can move a bit faster, sometimes they can be a bit slower, and they're not going to compromise the integrity of their product for a target date. And then where are they right now? So code is frozen. Audit 1 is complete, I think. Audit 2 is taking place right now, and it's getting close to completion. There is a semi-audit kind of review that took place as well from an outside party, and that was completed, but they haven't had any critical or high severity bugs. They've had a couple of medium ones, but mostly it was low level bugs that have been quite easy to fix. So they've been on top of most of the stuff. And they are working on having a developer environment. They're working on getting everything set for Haleshki and getting it ready to go. And then they're doing they're actually starting the testnets before the audits. So there might be chance that they will have to redo the audits, redo the testnet at some point. but they think that they'll actually gain more from doing that than they would lose by waiting until all the audits are finished. After that, there was information about Immunify bounty or something like that. I wasn't able to listen to that part of it, but if you find a critical bug, you get $100,000, which is pretty cool. And then they've got Sigma Prime and ChainSafe doing the audits. And then after that, rETH from Gravitar came online talking about how they're going to incentivize XRETH, how they're going to incentivize XRPL, what their goal is for very quickly to empty the deposit pool and then hopefully empty the deposit pool again. So they've got, big chunks of ETH potentially lined up. They are thinking of doing a referral program. So if you can bring in a lot of XRETH minting to happen, they'll have some incentives for people to hold that and keep that, in DeFi or just their wallets to get the rewards later. There might also be like a profit sharing system for referrals of large amounts of ETH. So those are some things that you can look out for as well. But they're going to have more details coming out soon. And then going back to it, then they answered some questions about, actually joining, like what do you need to do? So you need to be registered node operator to go onto testnet. You have to take part in the testnet in order to get access to the mainnet, although that criteria might be changed later, but they want to make sure that launch goes as smoothly as possible with people who know what they're doing, ready to do what they need to do. And if they have enough ETH to empty out the deposit pool, and they've got around 250 node operators at the moment, that means that each node operator will be getting around 5 validators each. So there'll be some money coming in for people pretty much right away. But one of the things to pay attention to is that the numbers that it'll increase by will be one at a time, and you'll only be able to spin up one validator a day. That's because it's serialized and they need to go through a kind of scrub check. So you, as the node operator, will have to provide 1 ETH as kind of a bond that while your validator is going through a scrub check to make sure that everything is okay. And then once the scrub check is complete, then you'll get that ETH back, and then you can start a second validator. So it's very much going to be a case that you'll only get 1 validator a day, and you'll slowly potentially be able to build that up to 5, hopefully within the first few days. And I'm really hoping that they'll have a lot more ETH than they think right now. So much so that we can get dozens of validators each, which would actually be really nice. But yeah, you can read the whole of the notes here. They're still a little bit rough, but they're quite detailed. So if you have any questions about what you see in the notes, definitely ask it in the NodeSet Discord, because people there will be able to answer that. Okay, next we've got news of EigenLayer doing their second airdrop, and this is from the perspective of Rocket Pool. So let's see what they say. They say, in Season 2, we're allocating Eigen tokens to key repositories that help shape EigenLayer, and we've made the list public. So make sure to check it by Friday, September 13th, which is today at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time, which is in around 12 hours of when I'm recording. This is if you've contributed significantly to a listed repository, verify your GitHub and connect your wallet here. And then there's a link for verify.eigenfoundation.org. It says list eigenfoundation.org S2 repos. So if you actually go and look at those repositories, you'll see that Rocket Pool's repositories are on there as well. So anyone who has contributed to the Rocket Pool repositories, they should be able to connect with their GitHub and get some Eigen tokens for the work that they've done. Like, I'm not sure how that's going to work for a team like Rocket Pool. Like, will that be, shared out amongst the team? Will that be given to the dev who actually worked on that? I don't know, but I guess that's up to them to share or figure out. But there were a few community members who actually met the threshold, and their GitHub accounts were actually accepted by EigenLayer for the work that they did. So, congratulations to those people. But yeah, this is really nice that developers in Rocket Pool, whether that's the team or the community, will actually be getting some rewards from this. Okay, so we had the threat of 1kx dumping a lot of RPL, kind of hanging over us for a few days, and we weren't sure basically what was happening with that. Well, the price pump that we had in RPL token earlier this week was an opportunity for 1kx to sell $2.38 million worth of RPL tokens with the spike. So here there's an article from CoinChapter, and this information has actually been verified to me elsewhere as well, that this did actually happen. And what happened is that the RPL token surged in price, and 1kx saw that as an opportunity to sell their tokens. I don't know if that was a limit sell or if they responded to market conditions, but I think this actually probably hampered the possibility of a short squeeze that we could have had. 1kx didn't sell 200,000 plus RPL tokens into this pump. The pump could have gone a lot further, but and then then the short squeezing starts, and that amazing 100% wick that we got before would have potentially could have happened again. But this is one of those situations where it's good that we got some clarity about this. But yeah, 1kx network apparently it was coming through some source here in Asia, and that's why they're saying it says they're still with Rocket Pool and they still have 315,000 tokens staked. So they've still got one of their nodes running. So it's really interesting how these guys at CoinChapter actually have a lot of info about 1kx. So good job there. But at least we got some clarity on what's happening with those tokens. And I guess that pump was a good time for them to sell some of their tokens they wanted to get rid of. Okay, I'm finishing Rocket Pool news with this tiny little tidbit that we got from Nick. So a few days ago, Scuzzle shared information from the Ledger Live app saying that there was a problem with the front end and that the Rocket Pool section of the Ledger Live app had some problems with it. So Nick reached out to them and said Ledger have let us know that they've corrected the missing icon and the issues should be resolved. Thank you for letting us know. The Rocket Pool icon was missing and the link that it linked to was actually a broken link. So that has been fixed now as well. So thank you, Nick, for letting us know about that. Okay, moving on to some Ethereum news now. And this news potentially shouldn't come to as a shock to anyone. But Christine Kim reports that in the All Core Devs call, the devs were seriously considering splitting the Pectra hard fork into two. They've discussed this idea before, but it was shut down because of concerns that it would delay the vertical fork. The idea was raised again on today's calls as devs discussed adding more EIPs to Pectra. So yeah, Pectra was already a few months ago the biggest hard fork in Ethereum history in terms of EIPs to be included in there, and then the devs wanted to add even more to that. And a few months ago, people were like, that's a whole lot of EIPs to get done into one hard fork. There was a possibility that this might be split up. And at the time, like people were like, no, it wasn't going to be split up. But now the idea is surfacing again. And here, Christine goes on to say, devs are insistent that if the fork is split, the first half could be shipped next in February. And the scope of the first Pectra fork would include all the EIPs on DevNet 3, which included stuff like MaxEB, set EOA account code, supply validator deposits on chain, etc. The second Pectra fork would include EOF and PRAS, plus blob count increase and probably a few other EIPs that devs still have been mulling over for some time, like SSZ, to be determined on the name for the second Pectra fork. Devs expected to make final decisions about it in the next ECD call, full write-up of the call. So this is one of those situations where, it's kind of disappointing in all honesty, but it kind of makes sense. So things that impact Rocket Pool will be potentially in the first fork, which I guess is good for Rocket Pool, like execution layer triggerable exits 7002 and effective max balance increase 7251. But for Ethereum standpoint, I don't want to criticize the core devs. They do amazing work, but it seems like to get more EIPs fit into like the protocol, to make the vertical trees hard fork very much like the merge, where it's like focused on one big thing with maybe a few very minor things added on top of it. They're just shoving more and more stuff into Pectra, and I think that it was only a matter of time before it couldn't take it anymore, and now it's undergoing like cell division and it's become two hard forks potentially. It's not decided yet, of course, but I don't know. I think this, from Rocket Pool's perspective, of course, there's two EIPs here that are directly impacting Rocket Pool, and the sooner we get those, the better it is. But from an Ethereum perspective, as a user perspective, it would have been really nice to get all of these by February. That, of course, was looking less and less realistic over the last months as well. And then, the idea went, from February to Q1 and then to Q2. And even a few weeks ago, I saw people saying maybe it might be Q3 of 25, in which case, that would be really, really far in the future. But this might make sense, to avoid that from happening. But then I'd really like some ideas or deadlines kind of when the second Pectra fork would happen. But I thought I'd bring that to all of yours attention. Okay, next we're going to talk about Vitalik a little bit and some of the things that he's saying and the consequences of his words. So Vitalik shared this post yesterday on September 11th, so 2 days ago, saying he's responding to a thing about the standards for the Ethereum ecosystem and how they need to be stricter about rollups. So he says, I take this very seriously. So he says, starting next year, like 3.5 months time, he says, I plan to only publicly mention in blogs, talks, etc. Layer 2s that are stage 1 plus, with maybe a short grace period for new, genuinely interesting projects. He says, it doesn't matter if I've invested or if you're my friend, will be at stage 1 or bust. He says, multiple zk rollup teams have told me that they're on track to be stage 1 by year's end. I'm excited to see that happen. Of course, we should not throw away training wheels because we're actually confident that the proof system secure. That would be irresponsible. But stage 1, 75% threshold on council to override the proof system. 26% of council members must be outside the rollup team is a very reasonable, moderate milestone. The multi-sigs I'm in have not had a single liveness failure in years, let alone 26%. It says the era of rollups being glorified multi-sigs is coming to an end. The era of cryptographic trust is upon us. So Vitalik is laying down the marker now, saying enough, of this taking your time with it. It's time to get to stage 1, and I'm fairly sure that maybe in a year's time you might be making a similar post saying that get to layer stage 2 to be fully decentralized and like really help those users. But this is actually a really, really good point that Vitalik made, and there was a lot of feedback that came from it quite instantly. The first thing to mention though is that Vitalik has actually been on a tear on Twitter recently, which I think a lot of people have been kind of begging of him. And in the whole of 2023, he averaged 13 Twitter posts a month. In January to July of 2024, he averaged 44. And then in August of 2024, in 1 month alone, he put out 158 posts on Twitter, which is actually more than he did in all of 2023. So this is Vitalik really like being on the front lines. And a lot of people have said this is like wartime Vitalik, like going out there in the trenches, like replying to reply guys, like with memes and stuff. And Vitalik's like been absolutely amazing on Twitter recently, like putting out some really, really great ideas and really great thoughts. And people have twisted some of the things that he's saying and done, like maliciously, I think, and like not giving him the benefit of the doubt and like understanding what he's trying to say in a couple of instances. But for the most part, he's been making really strong positive statements, and they've been getting really like instant results. So Optimism, of course, turned off their fraud proofs recently because there was an issue with them. And then a little while later, after Vitalik's post, I think it was a little while later after Vitalik's, like within a couple of hours of Vitalik's posts, they were saying that they've turned on the fraud proofs again. So they did a really good job there. And then with zkSync, there was a post out zkSync environment as well, and they are updating their new governance system, and that's going live. So they're saying that we're raising the bar for decentralized governance systems that are built last. Here's how we're doing it. It's not going to be a multi-sig. They'll have professional security council with limited powers, and there'll be real protection of cipher values. And then they've got a whole blog that goes with that if you want to read it. But this is a step for them, on the way to getting to stage 1, like Vitalik was mentioning. Here, ZK Nation now is actually gaining some power. So this is the token holder voting. They're going to be using the tally system to do that. And there's information here as well about how they're going to do it. So there'll be voting happening on all sorts of different things. And you have to remember, ZK was actually one of the projects that gave a bigger chunk of their token generation event to airdrop hunters, I guess, but also to the community who was using it. I'm still holding my ZK token, so I'm actually excited to start voting in ZK stuff if I have the bandwidth. Otherwise, I'll just delegate my tokens to someone else. But this is actually really exciting that the zkSync's actually starting to move now and things are happening. And here on the L2B website, they're actually already showing that the zkSync era project is now under review. I'm not sure if these changes that I mentioned will actually take them to stage 1, but I think it's either going to get them closer to stage 1 or they'll be at stage 1 very soon, hopefully. So that, of course, is really exciting. Okay, recently I mentioned how there was problems with wrapped BTC on Ethereum, and people were kind of losing confidence in that because of the multi-sig changing. And then Coinbase responded very, very quickly by saying that Coinbase is launching its own cbBTC, and that has now launched. This product launched yesterday, so there was a really quick turnaround for them. And here they've got a blog post out, tweet thread out showing like what's happening. So they're saying, the ERC20 token backed 1-to-1 with Bitcoin held by Coinbase. And this means millions of BTC holders can now securely access DeFi apps on Base and Ethereum ecosystems, with more chains coming soon. And here's what you need to know. So the apps that you'll now be able to use cbBTC is Aerodrome, Curve, Aave, Compound, Morpho Labs, Moonwell, Spark, Beta Labs, Mellow Protocol, and a whole bunch of others as well. So one thing that's really interesting how it's going to work is if you are in Coinbase and you have BTC there, you can actually now send that to an Ethereum address, and it will automatically convert it to cbBTC using their product. Now, I have no idea how that's going to work for tax purposes by wrapping your BTC this way, but hey, that might be something that you can think about. But this is actually really cool product. So here there's some information about how it's going to work and about how it's going to automatically convert, basically. Yeah, and then how you can use it in these apps. And then here there was a user, Adriano was saying about how, Coinbase is saying here's cbBTC, but in reality it's going to be benefiting Ethereum, and how Ethereum and Base are actually scaling Bitcoin. Because of course, if you are holding Bitcoin on your BTC tokens on the Bitcoin network, that really can't do anything for you. But if once you take it through Coinbase, or you get it turned into cbBTC, then you can do a whole lot with it. Now, I need to make clear that this isn't a trustless solution. Like, you're not going to get anything like that with cross-chain bridges. There's almost always some kind of entity involved that has off-chain powers over it, and this product is no different. But that's something for you to see if you're willing to tolerate the risk. And then the marketing for cbBTC started. Jonathan Mann here put out a song about cbBTC. It was a banger of a dance anthem if you want to listen to that. And then here Poet shared that there's some really good incentives out there for cbBTC on some of those base DeFi protocols. So here he says on Aerodrome, he has provided liquidity for cbBTC with ETH, and he's currently getting 224% APR because of the liquidity incentives. Of course, that is unlikely to last for a long time as more people put their tokens in there, but real liquidity for BTC is now coming on chain with Base and probably Ethereum mainnet as well. So that's pretty cool stuff. Now, Anthony Sahano shows that here there's a big fat Ethereum and a small Bitcoin, and the big fat Ethereum just kind of eats the Bitcoin until it just becomes Ethereum. And there are a lot of ETH maxi type people who think that the long-term path for Bitcoin is probably for Bitcoin to just become a layer 2 potentially, or an ERC20 on Ethereum. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happens in our lifetimes. Okay, next we've got this news out of Swift and about how they're building on Ethereum, and they have this tweet. So Swift is the international payment settlement system, and they said that they're paving the way towards real-world solutions that will enable our members to transact interchangeably with regulated digital assets and currencies on the Swift network. And then there's information that you can go and read. But here Matthew has information. He says Swift announces new digital assets efforts, emphasizes regulated environments, and the experiment focuses on interoperability between traditional finance and emerging technologies like tokenized assets and cbDCs, that's central bank digital currencies. It says the only layer 1 Swift has ever mentioned in such communications is Ethereum. And what you can see here is in their document, it says Chainlink was used as an enterprise abstraction layer to securely connect the Swift network to the Ethereum Sepolia network, while Chainlink's cross-chain interoperability protocol enabled complete interoperability between the source and destination blockchains. So here, this was from a little while ago, talking about how they are building on Ethereum, and it looks like that is what they're going to go ahead with. So that is pretty cool to see. Okay, I wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking about Liquity next. So for those of you who know, Liquity has LUSD, which is a completely decentralized stablecoin built on Ethereum, and this is backed by ETH and nothing else. And now they're coming out with their version 2, and they're going to have a new token called Bold. And with version 2, they're going to actually allow Liquity token staking. So that's the LQTY token. This is going to break away from the precedent set by voting escrow systems. Those are the VE systems. This is offers a sustainable community-driven model that puts long-term stakers first with zero dilution risk and no need for locks. And here are 4 reasons why staking LQTY stands out. So you'll get dual rewards. Also, there'll be no long-term lockups. You'll stay in longer and gain more power. And then it's going to be immutable yet flexible. So the way they're saying is that their core is immutable, it's trustless and secure, but the voting model is complementary. The fixed 25% of protocol revenue for incentivized liquidity gives LQTY stakers the power to direct rewards to the high initiatives. And then they're going on to saying it's not only rewarding, but it's about being bold enough to shape the future of V2 with real flexibility and impact. So they're actually doing some really cool things. Liquity, like I said many times on Rocket Fuel, is a project I think is really awesome. It's just a shame that, in the past they haven't been able to scale the extent that we would want them to scale. But this is, them trying to fix some of those problems. And I think they're going to do a really good job with it. So congratulations, guys. Okay, next we've got some more regulatory news coming out of the US, and this is with eToro, which is a crypto exchange that's bigger in Europe than it is in the US. But in the US version of eToro, the SEC actually came after them, and they settled with the SEC by removing a whole lot of crypto assets that were tradable on their platform, leaving only Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin Cash after they settled. So they actually paid a small fine and agreed to remove a lot of assets from their trading platform. Now it's worth knowing that eToro is actually a really small US exchange. It's much bigger in other countries. I think it only had like 12,000 customers or 120,000 customers in the US compared to 50 million from Coinbase. So it's like on a whole different level, right? So I don't think they really wanted to, get into a big fight with the SEC in the US. They just accepted the SEC's warnings a slap on the wrist and decided to leave the market for the most part. But here, Paul Grewal from Coinbase, of course, says they just conceded that ETH is not offered as an investment contract security in secondary markets, but the SEC Gov will not explain why ETH and BTC but not others, because they can't. There's no plan, no framework, no logic, no due process, and certainly no respect for the law. So here is, the acknowledgement that because they're allowing Ethereum to continue being traded on the US version of eToro, this means that this is definitely not a security anymore. Like any last idea that people had of the ETH token being a security has now been completely gone away. The problem is that it's not clear in words. The SEC have not said this outright, and that is where the problem lies. And Paul is really strong in criticizing the SEC here, saying that their whole framework is wrong and what they're doing is garbage. And yeah, it's not good. Got some sad news from the Ethereum Foundation to finish off the Ethereum section of today's episode. And this is a post from Danny Ryan saying that after much reflection, I've decided to step away from my roles at EF and the Ethereum 1 ecosystem. It's been an incredible 7 years and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Thank you for everything. So he's then got an email address that you can hit him up on if you want to talk or chat. He says for the time being, he's only responding to emails about once a week, unless we have some other agreed upon arrangement. He says my previous Telegram account is dead. I will absolutely not respond there. So then a lot of people were saying thank you for your work with the Ethereum Foundation. I mostly know Danny through his times on Bankless and also with all core devs. So Danny was a really great person to be on the Ethereum Foundation. He's definitely going to be missed. And if you want to read his thoughts, then he's got longer form post on his GitHub that you can go and read and find out why he's doing the Ethereum Foundation. Okay, in other news, there was this really interesting story that popped up and I thought I'd share it with you all. And this is from Nifty Note saying today happened one of the biggest CryptoPunk heists of all time. Someone with a lot of patience and knowledge just bought APE 2386 for 10 ETH. This is how. there's a thread here. So this is actually a CryptoPunk that is one of the very rare ape CryptoPunks, and this is wearing a headband and sunglasses, and it was previously valued at 450 ETH, and this was fractionalized. So this ape was broken down into pieces, and that was put onto a platform called Nitfix. And what ended up happening is that the platform went down, the website became dysfunctional, but the contracts, of course, stay alive forever. And someone figured out that you could, there were 10,000 shares basically that were distributed across a whole lot of people. And the buyout was not possible, but now there was. So the contract worked in a way that if you propose a buyout, a 14-day grace period was initiated where the rest of the shareholders had time to ponder it or accept or reject it. But the problem is no one knew this was happening, right? Because the Niftex front end was down. It's gone. It's finished. It's functional now, and this person was interacting directly with the contracts. So they made an offer for 0.001 ETH per share, which of course was worth like 45 times more than that at the time of fractionalization. And that, for the total 10,000 shares, that would be 10 ETH. And because there was a 14-day period, the person made the offer. No one knew that this was happening, any of the fractional owners, and then the contract automatically accepted those fractional tokens to be burned, and the person to claim the NFT for 10 ETH. So the last 8 CryptoPunk sold for 620 ETH, 3.3 thousand ETH, and 2.69 ETH. So yeah, this now has a current high bid of 600 ETH on the marketplace. So the person can pretty much instantly make 590 ETH. But if there's a bull market and prices go high, then expect those, that to be worth the multiple thousands potentially. So that is a nice way to get a few hundred X on your ETH investment. It's pretty amazing. So I thought I'd share that story with you all. Next, we've got this really funny thing that's happening in the Ethereum block building landscape with searchers. And there is this searcher out there who is signing their transactions with 0xBeef. And this, like, the searching game is super fast, right? Like, this happens within like milliseconds. Like, every millisecond is, a race to get the best block possible built, and finding all the transactions and building a block with them, and the best one wins basically. And in that same time, this person is, salting these transactions with 0xBeef as the beginning of the hash of the transaction hash, which requires computational power. So for those of you who are not technical like me, Lawrence here explains it, and he says, "This is so mad, I can hardly believe it. You've got to be pulling batshit searching speed if you're deciding to vanity your transaction hash as well. I kneel." This post got like 1.3 thousand likes. He says there are cathedrals everywhere for those with eyes to see. It says you can run this as well, like if you want to do the transaction hash. But yeah, this is a really cool little flex that this person is doing. And finally, I'm going to end the episode with some news of a Rocket Pool community member, and this is from Looking for Owls, who has recently accepted a job in the crypto market. And he was involved in some NFT stuff a couple of years ago, but actually became a farmer, and now he's back to work in crypto, for better or worse. But he has got a job with staking facilities, who are node operational infrastructure provider, and we're really happy for him. So a whole lot of people here shared a lot of love with LFO, and we're really happy for him to get this job. So this is really, really great news. And if you want to have a look at the staking facilities website, people who you got the job with, they're actually hiring other positions as well. So you can get to know who they are and what they're looking for. So they're looking for a senior systems engineer, blockchain software engineer, and senior systems engineer administrator. So it looks like they've got some cool stuff. They're actually a Lido node operator as well. But yeah, good stuff for LFO. Congratulations. So I'm ending the episode there today. Thank you all for watching, listening, and being part of the Rocket Pool community. I hope you all have a lovely weekend ahead, and I'll see you all on Monday. Bye.